My name is Bessie Coleman. I was born in 1892 in Atlanta, Texas, into a family of sharecroppers of African and Cherokee descent. My 12 brothers and sisters and I went to school when we could, but at harvest time, we would all have to help bring the cotton in from the fields. One by one, my siblings grew up and moved away, and eventually I joined some of my brothers who had moved to Chicago. There, I graduated beauty school and worked in a barber shop. Before long, my reputation as a hard worker got me hired as manager of a restaurant. In 1914, World War I broke out in Europe, and when the United States joined the war a few years later, my brothers enlisted in the army. They were proud to fight for their country, and when they returned from the war, they told me stories about their time in France. They told about their terror when German airplanes swooped down like lightning, machine guns blazing, and about their relief and excitement when French and American pilots came to their rescue. I had never heard anything so exciting in all my life. Twisting and diving and soaring through the clouds. I just knew that I had to fly someday. My brothers teased me, of course. At that time, there wasn't a flight school in America that would teach blacks or women of any race. But a customer at the barber shop where I worked was just as excited by the flying aces as I was. His name was Mr. Robert Abbott, owner of the Chicago Defender newspaper. He told me he knew for a fact that the flight schools in France were teaching women and blacks alike. I knew then what I had to do. I saved every penny I could and studied French at night until I could speak it, read it, and write it. When I had the money, I applied to flight school, got my passport, and set sail for France. Before long, I became the first black person in the world to receive an international pilot's license. And when I returned to the United States, I became the first black woman and the first Native American to receive an American pilot's license. I traveled the country putting on spectacular air shows. Barnstorming, they called it, dazzling crowds with loop-de-loops and figure eights, then swooping down just feet above their heads. I flew for events honoring black veterans of World War I like my brothers. Everywhere I went, I did all I could to encourage other women and people of color to pursue flying. I earned enough money to buy my own JN-4 biplane, known to aviators as a Jenny. My dream was to one day open a flight school that would teach everyone without discrimination. I was making great progress toward my goal when tragedy struck. In the middle of an air show in February 1923, my Jenny's engine died. I made a crash landing, breaking my leg and several ribs. It was a terrifying experience, and I lost my plane. But I wasn't going to let one accident ruin my dream. I didn't fly for some time, but I did accept speaking engagements all over the country. On a trip to Florida, I met the Reverend Hezekiah Hill and his wife Viola. They were so kind. They came to be like a second mother and father to me. I lived with them for a time and opened a beauty shop to raise money for a new airplane. I told them about my crash, and they begged me not to fly anymore. But as much as I respected their opinion, I felt it was what I was born to do. I began doing air shows all over the country once again, even in segregated states. But if I saw a whites-only entrance to the air show with a separate entrance for people of color in back, I would give the organizers a piece of my mind. I was the one who had mastered flying. I was the one putting my life on the line. And there wasn't going to be a show if my friends and family were going to be disrespected when they came to see me. Finally, the organizers agreed that everyone could use the same entrance, regardless of race. It was a small victory, but a step in the right direction. Eventually, I saved enough money to buy a new Jenny. It's hard to know whether I should have listened to the Hills when they tried to talk me out of flying, but their hearts broke when they received word the following year that I was killed while doing a test flight in my new plane. Tens of thousands of people mourned my passing at memorial services in both Florida and Chicago. I didn't live to realize my dream of opening a flight school. But shortly after my death, a World War I veteran by the name of William J. Powell founded the Bessie Coleman Aero Club. You see, I had inspired him, and he not only became one of the first Black pilots in the U.S. military, but he spent the rest of his life helping African Americans to design, build, repair, and fly airplanes. I'm grateful that my courage and resilience inspired others to aim for the sky.